Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to our webinar today, How to Protect Yourself by Protecting Your Assets. I'm your host today, Scott Sauerbeer, Vice President of Business Development for Ally. Today's webinar is going to be rather explaining how you can insulate and protect your registry by utilizing caregivers that take advantage of products available to them to self-insure. By doing so, this further supports the independent contractor model, ensuring you are not being deemed the employer. Plus, we'll take a few minutes today also and talk about suggested techniques for performing background screenings. Joined with me today in this episode will be William Sullivan, Executive Vice President and Chief Underwriting Officer for CMNF for Professional Liability Insurance, along with David Smith, Occupational Accident Insurance Director of Avant Underwriting. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. If you're joining us again, welcome back. As a reminder, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Anytime during this webinar, please feel free to click on that button, submit your questions. We'll get to all of the questions submitted for any of the topics at the end of today's session. We do have a poll that we will be trying to employ during the process of this as we wrap up the insurance and background screenings. So if you see a poll come up, please feel free to participate in that. We encourage you to do so. And we're excited about today's participation. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get things moving along. So what is a connected care service? Basically, it is an enhanced value to our base value proposition of the product source. In this case, Ally is the product source. Really, it allows the care provider to create a higher level of use of that product, Ally, allowing them to streamline daily operations and use essential tools without ever leaving the platform. So our goal is really to integrate and simplify the process by providing it all in one area for your use. We're going to go ahead and get things kicked off today with Will Sullivan for CMNF with regards to professional liability insurance. William?
Thanks, Scott. Thank you so much for having me here. And so what I will walk through is professional liability insurance or medical malpractice, depending on the profession. And we're going to go through some of the basics for the registries, but really focusing on registries' risk of pushing the caregivers to get their own coverage independently as part of our partnership with Ally. You can go to the next one, Scott. So CMF Group, we are over 100 years old, but we've been doing professional liability since 1947. We cover over 130,000 clients nationally. That's from business entities to individuals like home health aides, caregivers, nurses, over 200 different classes in every state in the country, plus DC. We are currently the leading professional liability insurance provider for registry caregivers nationally. And Ally, we're just excited as a new partner to work with them. And it would be another good item to highlight. We're part of a larger group called Specialty Program Group, which is part of Hub International. Hub International is the 5th largest broker in the world for insurance. And we happen to have one of our sister companies, which is Avant, with our friend David here as well, who will kind of walk through. But what it really does and gives you an understanding is the unparalleled insurance resources that we have for all registry needs within our company in total. Next slide. So what is medical malpractice? So it's an injury to another person caused by a negligent act or failure to act by a healthcare professional. And we say professional kind of using that a little bit more broadly here in the conversation with caregivers, companions, as well as home health aides, CNAs, nursing assistants as well, RNs. Negligence imposes personal legal liability on that professional, that individual caregiver, and the employer. This is a particular question, especially for all of you as registries, because you're in that 1099 model versus the employment model. So we'll get into that a little bit, but medical malpractice is professional liability just for a healthcare provider specifically. So professional liability is a broad umbrella. So a CPA could have professional liability, an attorney, real estate brokers, things of that nature. And then med mal is specifically professional liability in the healthcare system. And next one. So, when you are personally liable, okay, when there is liability, you have to pay damages if it's determined that there's liability with you. And that's usually by a settlement or a verdict in court. Individuals and corporations can also be liable together. They can be individually liable as the business entity or corporation, as well as the individual. And in order to satisfy the liability, assets are taken. So that could be your personal assets for an individual, or if you have a business, those business assets will be exposed to the liability as well. Next slide. So this is a nice piece. So kind of stepping into, for the registries where you have that 1099 set up, it's a really great benefit to have your caregivers get their own policy. And here's some different kind of coverage gaps. And we kind of, understanding that the registries, you're in the 1099 model, you're not the employer. But this further kind of delineates the separation here. And we always find this a good one for having a personal liability policy in essence. So if you have one for the caregiver individually, so each of your caregivers sign up with Ally and go to CMF with us, it's defending that person's interests specifically. So that caregiver, you have HIPAA investigation coverage. It covers that caregiver part-time, or if they do moonlighting or per diem. So, and that kind of varies in your space, in your vertical. Telemedicine, not as necessary, but it might be based on the providers that you get connected with these clients. We always recommend occurrence coverage. We can always give you an understanding of what that is. And it's also Good Samaritan coverage, which means, if you're a healthcare provider and you see somebody hurt in a car accident and you provide care to them, our coverage will cover that caregiver when they're trying to do something in an emergency. And you can see the juxtaposition there in that if you have an employer policy that your caregiver depends on, it's going to defend the employer's interest rather than the individual caregiver. Again, that separation between the registry and the caregiver is really well delineated here, with who's defending you and why with the policy. And, in each of the other aspects might not necessarily extend to the caregiver, whereas giving them this portable coverage helps them for you and your registry, but also gives them the opportunity to have coverage anywhere else they do work, which frankly makes them, set up for strength and protection that they're available to continue working, and be sustainable from that standpoint. Next slide. So we find ourselves with CMF Group really a solution for caregivers individually. We cover tens of thousands of them, and I would venture to say hundreds of thousands over the years on an individual basis. Working with Ally, we have a great opportunity now to aggregate and kind of put everybody in there. And one of the reasons why this is meaningful is, number one, create that arm's length opportunity for DOL compliance considerations. We're not experts on that. You have attorneys that Scott and crew can kind of pass you along to, but we hear this commonly that registries want to de-risk themselves by having that extension with their 1099s going out and getting coverage. The caregivers. We also have administrative ease working with Ally, where this is really an easy functionality to get it done on top of the DOL compliance considerations. One of the things on the caregivers specifically, though, our coverage, you can get it on a tablet, you can get it on your smartphone. It's accessible, desktop as well. It's affordable and it's portable. It's around $100 for the year for coverage, and that varies based on state, but it's relatively a little bit less than $100 to a little bit over $100 based on the limits of coverage that you get, and it's portable. So if they get coverage in, let's say, Tallahassee, but they do a little work up in Georgia and they kind of transit between states, it's going to cover them wherever they go. It's really a win-win in entrepreneurial caregivers, where people are feeling really like the strain and burnout mentality of what's going on, and giving caregivers the opportunity to go out and be their own entrepreneurs, dedicate their own time when they want to work, when they don't want to work, and take time off and get those benefits. It's really great support on that end. And then on the other side, it's really a great win for de-risking for registries and other further considerations to help them grow. Next slide. So for CMF Group, how to enroll in the PLI program or the Professional Liability Insurance program. Again, you walk through with Ally, but more than welcome to check out our website. The quote is custom as it comes in based on the specific needs, geographic location, all that good stuff. We have the phone number and we have a dedicated email that we work with Scott's team on. And we have a little slide there on like where the coverage comes in on the general portal page and kind of walks through the different caregiver scenarios. Of course, we have over 200 different types. So that's just a small smattering of it dedicated to home health, but we do see a lot of RNs and other professionals, physical therapy, occupational therapy now kind of jet setting into the home care industry. So I think that's it, Scott. Back to you.
Just to add to that, William, as far as keeping it consistent, we've created an automated ticket process for these insurances for all of the OAI products, for all the PLI products. Is to simply, you can go through the CMS website, CMNF website. That's certainly easy. And this is where I grabbed that screenshot. But for the simplification and consistent messaging, any registry is able to refer a caregiver to support@allyms.com. Just put in the subject line PLI and the caregiver's name, phone number, and email. That automated ticket system goes directly to William and his team. They reach out to the caregiver within 24 hours. They can walk them through that process of signing up and getting coverage. So you'll see that consistently through today's presentation. I just want to kind of call that out for simplification. Great job.
Appreciate it, Scott.
Got some questions coming in already, but we'll certainly address those here in just a little bit. So continue to encourage anyone that has a question or would like to learn more or has something of specificity, please click on that Q&A button. Love to see them coming in, and we will address those here in just a little bit. Great job, William. Thank you. Our next partner is Avant Occupational Accident Insurance. So with that, I want to go ahead and bring on David Smith, who handles that part of our program for us. So David.
Thank you very much, Scott. It's really great to be here and be able to showcase our products between us and CMNF and Allied, all the registrars. Just to kind of piggyback on top of what Will was saying before, we are owned by SPG Specialty Program Group and Hub International, which is one of the largest brokers globally. And so we were purchased by them about in 2020. And so what we specialize in is the independent contractor model. So a little bit of back history of Avant. We prized ourselves in understanding what the independent contractor specifications are, the principal benchmarks, and we utilize this within the trucking space, specifically at the very beginning. But then we branched out over the years because of our product knowledge. We've been able to capture independent contractors of any and all sizes and shapes. So just to begin with, we started back in 1974, where we first developed our non-trucking liability program, which essentially launched us into the IC space. Since then, we've been an MGA and providing essentially a nationwide commercial insurance within the independent contractor model, everything from general liability to auto to occupational accident and workers' compensation. And we've been doing this for over 30 years, and we are backed by underwriters who have over 20 years of experience. So our team is particularly knowledgeable and practiced in the state-specific principal benchmarks that define the characteristics of an independent contractor. So we understand the independent contractor model, especially as it relates to federal law, and then how it pertains to the weekly indemnities and the payouts in the event of an injured worker. And Avant is one in the top five of the leading insured programs, developers in the nation for independent contractors as to date. So we specialize in the claim. One of the final things that we specialize in is the claims management as pertains to claims. We handle all of the claims in-house through our Avant Specialty Claims Unit. Cynthia Larkins is our claims director, and she has the capacity to intake the multitude of claims as they roll in. I know the independent contractor space is very vast, and scale of what we're looking here, we certainly have the capacity to be able to withstand the intake and flow. But more importantly is that we get the claims in and paid. So we are an occupational accident outfit. We specialize again in that product of occupational accident insurance as it pertains to the independent contractor model. Go to the next slide, Scott. Thanks. So here in this one, we want to identify who purchases occupational accident insurance and why do they purchase it. So occupational accident provides the workplace accident medical benefits like emergency care and disability benefits for the self-employed individual. This includes the independent contractor, the individual business owner, and nowadays with the gig economies launching off as it is, it's the traditional worker who works on side gigs, where oftentimes, and well, in fact, every time, the independent contractors do not have group medical programs provided to them by their hiring entity. This is, again, for the side gig, or as an independent contractor, they don't have a hiring entity to offer them the group medical plans. Therefore, they have to acquire a policy for themselves. And these type of policies, they do essentially, we're looking to sustain the independent contractor's ability to work not only on the physical realm, but also within the contractual obligation realm. So if they are to work, you have an independent contractor, nurse, a caregiver who is working for Ally or its affiliates, to be able to work for them and through their network, they ought to be able to supply to the network their coverage. That protects the registrars from being in any way obligated to pay for medical expenses or emergency medical expenses or disability in the event of a claim or an accident that the independent contractor, nurse, caregiver sustains and tries to file suit. So this, again, having the insured purchase their own policies ensures them not only on the contractual basis, but allows them to be able to keep going back to work in the event of an injury. These types of policies cover these type of exposures, workplace exposures, slip, trip, falls from uneven levels, sprains and strains, which in the caregiver space is the most common injuries that we see, is from lifting patients to helping them walk and move. And sometimes when they collapse, there's an injury that occurs not only on the patient side, but also on the caregiver side. Cuts and lacerations, and then more of the nuclear claims, loss of limb or life, and then illnesses or diseases. This policy will cover and provide emergency medical expenses as well as disability benefits in the event of these claims. So how will an independent contractor, so the overall question here is how will an independent contractor protect their way of life when they cannot do the work, when they cannot work due to an injury? Occupational accident insurance is the solution to that question. Next slide, Scott, please. Thank you. So what does an independent contractor caregiver get with these policies? So occupational accident insurance, the coverage benefits. Here on the left, we have the caregiver benefits, and then on the right-hand side, we have the levels. So a standard occupational accident policy, what they will get through the Ally program is they work accident medical insurance up to $1 million. This is their combined single limit. Temporary total disability is $850. We've tried to provide a product that meets or exceeds most states' temporary total disability statutory limits. Some states are 66%, anywhere from 500 to 700. So offering 850 is oftentimes higher than the normal state offering that they would normally get in a workman's comp product. Continuous total disability just ensures if they go past 110 weeks, which is the normal, or 104 weeks, which is the standard, but we offer 110 weeks on the benefit period. This is the average weekly earnings disability. You have workman's comp, which offers 60 to 66%. We are offering 75% of the average weekly earnings for the independent contractor. And then we also tied in with the Social Security benefits, which is about 80%. So there's going to be long-term coverage in the event of a nuclear incident where an independent contractor cannot work for an extended period of time past the 110 weeks. This program also offers death benefit and dismember benefit. we pay up to $250,000 in lump sum for an immediate death. This is caused by accidents going to and from work. This is also caused while at work, or an illness that results in a death, as long as it can be tied to the workplace injury. It'll be a compensable benefit paid out. So, and ultimately, the combined single limit again is $1 million. We do not erode the aggregate we do not erode the accident medical from the combined single limit. So this is in a nutshell of what all is provided for or through this independent contractor program. So there's lots of benefits to be securing the IC from not being able to work after an accident. So there's plenty of coverage for here. Next slide, Scott. The program that I just described is a cost of $30 per month to the independent contractor, to each caregiver. We wanted to make sure that we had a program that was competitive as well from the product as well as the price. This is a monthly cost to the independent contractor, whether they work full-time or part-time. So we wanted to make sure that the price was competitive. The enrollment process is Scott has allowed the enrollment process to be somewhat seamless and hassle-free as they go through the portal, which Scott will talk about. But one of the things that I wanted to mention on here is that, and the image on the slide is the independent contractor enrollment. This allows the independent contractor not only identify themselves as a true independent contractor, but also allows them the opportunity to name beneficiaries onto their program, so that in the event of one of those nuclear catastrophes where death is imminent, or the cause of the accident is death, then you'll have the named beneficiary listed on here, so they have an opportunity to name that prior to working with Ally. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll real quick. I'll have a few comments about this program that we have with you guys. So I'll launch this poll. Feel free to do that. I'll give it about 30 seconds, maybe no more than 60 seconds as I go. Would you like to be contacted with regards to either OAI or PLI, because we have these partnerships? Yes, no, or just, maybe in 30 days. What I do want to mention, excuse me, again, for simplicity, we do have the standard automated ticket system support at allyms.com. Similarly here, just simply put the word Avant in the subject line. That way we know which partner we're dealing with. All you have to do is provide the caregiver name, phone number, and email. That automated ticketing system will immediately notify our partner specific to which insurance policy they're looking for. They'll reach out to them within 24 hours, and we'll have a great response from them. I do want to point out something obvious here. Many of you know, and David knows of this as well, we have multiple occupational accident insurance partners. I felt obligated to give caregivers an option. So in doing so, we really broke it out in two facets. David's program has exceptional level of benefits, and we think about the Avant partnership with caregivers who traditionally have a steady or stable schedule. They're usually working 30, 40, 50 hours a week. I say that because it is a flat rate. Regardless of the number of hours the caregiver works, they're going to be charged $30 per month, and the caregiver will arrange payment directly with Avant. Our other partner is, as you all know, TFG. We love John. He's been a long-term partner of Allies as well. That is more of a pay-as-you-go plan. And that's more conducive to caregivers that do not have a regular schedule. They may work this week, they may not work for 2 weeks. And that just seemed unfair for caregivers to pay a $30 fee if they may or may not be working. It's at their discretion, of course. But I just want to point out the obvious. We're super excited about our partnership with Avant. I think we've had some small successes already. I'm hoping with today we can go ahead and further that. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll here in about 5 more seconds. If you have an interest, please click on that button and we'll get back in touch with you. All right. Next thing we're going to talk about are background screening services. So background screening services, there are risks associated with background screenings, believe it or not. So the lack of consistency in a standardized process can have an impact on the registry. Not screening every contractor or employee. You do have employees that work administratively for your registry as well. The lack of doing it more than once, maybe not keeping up with compliance changes. There's a lot of regulatory changes that are occurring in background screening environment, believe it or not, or incomplete and inaccurate screening results. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. So the lack of consistency in a standardized process really can affect the registry by not having something that's consistent and repeatable. So whether it's the independent contracted caregiver or office staff, you want to be able to demonstrate that you have an established process for onboarding any type of applicant that you're seeking. You can modify the search categories specific to the job role or the performance type of the person you're seeking the screenings for. Clearly, a contracted caregiver as opposed to an office staff, you would want to look for healthcare sanctionings that would not be applicable to a person inside the office. If they're handling funds or they're maybe financially involved, you may want to do credit checks and see what their individual credit performance is like if they're going to be managing anything financially for your firm. And then you want to obviously minimize record keeping mistakes, right? If it's all become digitized, it's in a single repository, that's where that consistency in a standardized process really shines. Not every screening contractor or employee level. Sorry, say that again. Not screening every contractor or employee level. So no matter the position or role, as mentioned previously, you really need to do a thorough background check. You can adjust the screenings based on, again, those persons' responsibilities. But the last thing you want to do is shortcut that process and open your registry up for potential liability. Excuse me, screening caregivers and office staff only once. Circumstances change in people's lives. There's a lot going on within the economy that can affect a person's personal life. So maybe performing background screenings, maybe as a suggestion annually, is something of strong consideration and something that is often deemed a best practice. Not keeping up with compliance changes. As I've mentioned before, there's federal legislative changes as it relates to background checks, a lot of state intervention as it relates to the types of background checks that need to be performed. We know they may require some states pay levels to be disclosed, some are ban the box things. So all of these things are continually being updated and refreshed. And disclosure statements, depending upon what state, they also have unique and specific disclosure statements that the applicant should be made aware of. And then incomplete or inaccurate results. Believe it or not all counties have electronic databases. Last I heard, it was in the 30-something% range. So argument's sake, let's say less than 50% are automated. As a result, you have to get what's called a court runner. And those individuals physically go to the courthouses, pull up the documents and records, and perform those searches manually. Different states have different requirements. Many of you on this call today, whether you're East Coast or West Coast, I think some folks from Florida or California, you guys have unique circumstances. We have created an ally, all 50 states, and what we understand to be their requirements. You'd be surprised at, even though there may be state level requirements, how many more additional background screening searches can be completed above and beyond that. We have just recently, like it's literally, the ink is still drying, hot off the press, come up with a couple of blogs. We're going to get posted out to our websites and share those. It provides you great insight as why you would want to consider doing additional screenings beyond just the state requirements. And frankly, many of them are outdated. So utilizing a third-party company as we have really makes this process seamless. We chose Screening One because it works across all care providers, whether you're home care, home health, or hospice. They can provide a certain level of screenings that are most often utilized. They do provide faster search results that are often less expensive than traditional platforms. Most of the searches that they perform are instant and usually not to exceed 36 hours. So we've dealt with folks from Colorado who have to use certain protocols within their state that's taking them 2 to 3 weeks to get results. They signed up with us and they were getting it done in less than 3 days. So that's a significant turnaround. When you guys are out there fighting for caregivers and applicants, time's of the essence. So if you can complete your process and potentially onboard them to refer cases to, that's an attribute and a benefit to work with them. Also, expanded search opportunities. Depending upon what part of the country you're in, if you happen to have an international independent contractor database that you're working with, our partner can perform international background screenings. And even just beyond that, they can also perform drug testing, and within the US, a 7-year county history provides a lot of relevance. We've taken a lot of effort to make this process easy for you. So we've literally created an electronic customized quote. Our team members will basically discuss with you what state are you in, what prerequisites, if any, you have to comply by, and then maybe what additional screenings you'd like to include, such as healthcare sanctioning, such as OFAC, such as a credit report, or even an MVR. So we've created these custom design packages exclusively for the home care registry. Once the quotation's accepted, we have the ability to provide you an electronic enrollment package. Once that's complete, you'll get your user credentials and you can order your first background check. We do have a small incentive going on at the moment. So usually within your first 30 days, if you can sign or at least perform your first background screening, we do have a small gift for you to accomplish that. I am excited to share that we do have current development, to include this within the Ally platform. So soon there will be a magic background screening button you can check. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning, our connected care service providers and partnerships allow you guys to operate within the platform without having to utilize other third-party applications or go around searching for things on the internet. I'm going to launch a second quick poll, if I could. So anyone that has an interest in background check screenings, if you want to learn more about that, feel free to click on these buttons. I'll leave this open for less than a minute, but I'm eager to learn, even in like states like Florida, who have a really high class 3 fingerprint background check requirements. There are still a lot of omissions and things that may not provide the same level of scrutiny as our partner with Screening One. So we've been very successful at selling additional background screening services, even in states like Florida, where they have such a high bar. So we encourage that. And then as we complete the product development for this within the platform, we'll roll that out shortly. As an added bonus, we did a couple of short videos. We can share that with you guys after this session, just to give you sort of a quick look-see. We could provide a formal, more detailed demo also. As far as being able to contact us, you're welcome to do that. You can contact inside sales at allycaretime.com. That'll get to a correct sales representative where they can contact you. If you just want to dial it old-fashioned, you can hit option number 4, and that'll direct you immediately to a live salesperson as well. So I'm going to go ahead and close this down. I encourage you guys, as we move into our Q&A portion, if you have any questions, click on that Q&A button for us, and we're going to get to that in literally just a few seconds. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this up. Thank you for participating in that poll. Greatly appreciate it. So as we move into the Q&A session, I want to go ahead and see what we've got here. We do have a question coming in. So as it relates, William, to professional liability insurance, it says, do you see claims for caregivers? So I'm thinking, as a claim gets submitted, let's unpack that a little bit. How do claims get submitted, and who sees the claims once they are submitted?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. It's really common, and one of the reasons why folks have been working with us as registries for years. And so anyway, so what usually occurs is if you get paperwork, like legal paperwork, like a subpoena, sometimes those go to the registry and the caregiver at the same time. Sometimes they go to the registry because that's the address that the caregiver has submitted somewhere. And sometimes it goes to the caregiver. But if it's specifically for the caregiver, they'll get the subpoena, and then they bundle up that information. They call us or email us, chat us, because we're accessible all 3 different ways. And we'll ask for, hey, we need a little bit more information, verify contact information, verify the policy number that you have, with the insurance. And then we get all the paperwork in. And then we have somebody from our insurance company, MedPro Group, which is Berkshire Hathaway owned. It's the largest and oldest insurance company that works in this sector and healthcare in the country, and so they're financially very strong, and they've got the best defense litigators nationally working in medical malpractice. So that information comes into us. We send it over to them. They have a claims representative connect with the caregiver directly. It's usually within 1 to 3 business days, and then they kind of take it from there, and they control everything. And the nice thing is that it's not just liability, it's also defense. So they will defend the caregiver, but also if the negligence is found and it falls under coverage of the policy, they will pay out the indemnity or liability of that negligence as well. Again, that's all part of a risk transfer strategy between the registry and the caregiver.
All right, understanding.
So
While I've got you, let me just piggyback off that real quick. What types of caregivers do you cover? So are there different skill sets or different types of independent contracted caregivers?
Sure. So kind of speaking to what we mentioned earlier, and David brings this up, the gig economy, but overwhelmingly in the wake of COVID, everybody is going out and trying to be entrepreneurial. They want to kind of pave their own way, and they want a lot more flexibility than maybe it's been historically. So you're seeing new professionals enter into the 1099 independent contractor mentality, and they're looking for, I'll call them platforms similar to a registry, but even online platforms, in more modern terms, where they're going out as physical therapy, occupational therapy, especially doing this. You get nurses doing this a lot, RNs, nurse practitioners, who have approval for telemedicine in most states, for example. So you're seeing a lot of that going out there on the 1099 space for caregivers. And we work with over 200 different specialties, all of which can be vetted through Ally's team when you submit. All
right, awesome. David, I'll move over to you real quick. I have a couple of questions that have come in. What if part-time, does my policy still cover me if I'm not working full-time?
The short answer is yes. This policy is on a month-to-month basis, and it does not change whether how much or how little the independent or the caregiver chooses to pick up shifts. If they choose to, obviously they're going to get the most out of the policy if they work on a full-time basis, but even if they work on a very temporary type, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, whenever they're on off shift from their typical job, this program is designed to maintain itself over on a month-to-month basis. So long as the premiums are paid, this policy won't cancel, even if they are part-time.
Okay, a couple of more that have also come in. You may have already answered this, so I apologize if you did. How many beneficiaries can the caregiver name on the OCAC policy?
That is a great question. Most occupational accident programs offer only one option for beneficiaries. This program can offer up to many. So if the caregiver has a spouse plus children, they can name them as beneficiaries with given percentiles. You have the primary, then secondary after that. So this program has a lot of options for them to be able to name the proper people that they want to have covered. They want to have as beneficiaries in the event of that they are they're killed or die in the event of an accident. So, but they can name up to, I think, 4 or 5 if they have that many.
Another question relating to OCAC. If I get hurt on the job, well, not if I, but if the caregiver gets hurt on the job, because we have registry owners here, if the caregiver gets hurt on the job and can't work, how soon usually do they experience getting disability checks or some type of financial support?
So what I understand, Scott, about the portals that the caregivers are using is that, and after a shift, they can select whether or not they had an accident or not during the time that they are working. And that is when a caregiver will submit they file a claim. I pulled a rotator cuff while lifting a patient, or I pricked my finger with a needle, or got my hand in a blender or something. So they will submit their claim, and then that'll come to our claims department, Avant Specialty Claims. It'll have an intake. They'll be contacted by an adjuster. The policy dictates that there is a 7-day period where if the injured worker is deemed disabled, then they'll issue a check effective back to the date of injury. So there's typically a 7-day waiting period, which is common for OCAC as well as workman's compensation. So when to expect a check would be within about a week or two after the date of injury. So if they're out of work, there's enough time to process, but they'll get their first check, but it'll be for the prior weeks that they were out on disability. As soon as they were deemed disability by a medical profession, they will receive checks for the time that they were out, but usually about 1 to 2 weeks.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's coordination with the validation of the completed shifts, right? So by them utilizing the Ally mobile app, confirming that when they actually were on shift helps validate any of those claim requests, correct?
Exactly, Scott. Yes.
Okay. So it's really beneficial again for registries to get onto the Ally platform, allow them to have access to giving the caregivers the mobile app. So at least there's one communication, visibility of scheduling, et cetera. Providing shift availability, as we've gone through. Many of the customers and prospects already know that. So I think that's a good way to sum that up. I'm going to launch one more quick poll if I can successfully do that. If anyone has an interest to learn more about the insurances, if anyone has interest to learn more about background screenings, if anyone wants to learn just more about Ally, how do we do it? What's the best way to go about that? What's the launch time if someone wants to utilize our platform for third-party payments to the caregivers? If you have compliance questions, we can give you our input. We're not going to provide you any legal advice. Obviously, we ask you to consult your legal partners to get that, but we can definitely provide you our experiences and where we've been able to shore up and help those that have had an experience with Department of Labor audits and have come out successfully at the end of that. As a result, because they have been on the Ally platform, that did provide them the necessary ammunition they needed to win those cases. So I'll leave that open just for another minute longer. I truly appreciate you guys being on here today, David and William. I did have one last question coming in here, and I'll answer this. The question was, do the premiums for the insurance policies come out of Ally? So specifically for PLI, which is our partner, CMNF, and specifically for the Avant Occupational Accident Insurance, we've arranged for those caregivers to pay directly to those two insurance providers. So right now, TFG is the only one because it's a pay-as-you-go, where we're able to monitor and track that for premium deductions through payment distribution as we provide payments to the caregivers. The most advantageous way, because these are set standard policy premiums that don't change and have no variation, to allow the caregiver to pay them directly. So that takes us to the conclusion of today. I just wanted to thank everybody for being on here. You are more than able to contact me directly. You're able to contact Inside Sales at Ally CareTime for more questions. And if there's anything we can do to promote or assist that, we do have a one-pager that we've created. I can get that out to you, anyone that's attending as well, to share with the caregivers that you're looking to engage with. You just simply hand them the sheet of paper. All the directions are on there, providing them everything they need to sign up for both professional liability insurance and occupational accident insurance. So with that, thank you all, and I hope you all have a good rest of the week.